In this video, we're going to talk about mortgages, and we're going to do a couple examples where we calculate the monthly payment for a mortgage and the total amount of interest that a person will pay on a mortgage. So first, let's talk about what a mortgage is. So it's just an agreement between you and a lender, which is a bank, that allows you to borrow money to purchase a home, or I added refinance. So refinance is just when you get another mortgage. So let's say you have a mortgage already and then interest rates lower and you want to take out a new mortgage. So it's a new mortgage that replaces the old one, that saves the person money because the interest is lower. And so when you take out a mortgage to purchase or refinance, that gives the lender the right to take your property if you fail to repay the money you borrowed. Technically, you don't fully own a home unless you've paid everything. You've paid for the home. So while you're making payments, the bank technically owns your home. And like other loans, you can make a down payment. And I say can, most banks actually require you to make a down payment, and you'll be given that information when you apply for the mortgage. And oftentimes buyers will try to save up to 20% of the cost of the home to use for a down payment. And the more money that a person pays down, the less money they're going to pay in interest later on. So it's an advantage to pay, to pay down as much as you can before you start your mortgage payments. And just like, when we calculated down payments for other, in other modules, you're just going to take the percentage down. So in this case, if it was 20%, it would be the decimal equivalent, so 0.20, and you multiply it by the cost or the principal, the amount of the house. And so there's just a couple other things that are important to mention too. In addition to the monthly payment that pays principal and interest, there are other charges that are usually included when you send in this mortgage payment. So that could be things like property taxes or homeowners insurance. Now, these things can be paid upfront or yearly just in bulk. Like you can write a separate check for property taxes or homeowners insurance, but a lot of people tend to roll those into their mortgage and just make those part of the monthly payment. And then possibly even mortgage insurance. So that just depends on the loan and the person. So let's go ahead and jump into an example, and we're going to use this monthly payment formula that you see here, and you'll notice it's very similar. In fact, it's exactly the same as the student loan formula. So just like the student loan formula, you're going to read these problems and you want to be able to identify what the principal is and what the rate is and what the term length is, or the amount of time that the person's going to pay off the loan. So the Villanueva family plans to buy a home for $274,900 and has been offered a 30-year mortgage with a rate of 5.6%. So it might be tempted to put the cost of the home in for principal, but you always want to make sure you read on and see if there's a down payment, because that's going to need to be factored in before we write down the principal. I'll write down the rate of 5.6% as a decimal. So I take the decimal and move it 2 spots to the left, and the term of 30 years. If they make a 20% down payment, what will the monthly payment be? So we're going to first start by calculating the down payment, so that we can figure out what that principal needs to be. So this family doesn't want to borrow all $274,900, or maybe the bank is, telling them they can't. They have to make this down payment. So we're going to multiply this by 0.20. So the cost of the home times 0.20, and that gives us our down payment of $54,980. Now we have to go one step further, and we have to find the principal. We're going to take the cost of the home minus the down payment. And so we're going to take $274,900 minus $54,980. And that will give us the amount that needs to be financed or needs to be borrowed by the bank. So the principal is going to be $219,920. So that number I'll just write over here. So $219,920. So now that we have the principal, we can go ahead and we can find that monthly payment. So I'm just going to use the formula up here, and I'm going to plug in all of the numbers. So $219,920 times the rate 0.056 divided by 12 divided by 1 minus 1 plus 0.056 over 12 to the negative 12 times t is going to be 30 power. And so you've got two options here. You can use, if you have this type of calculator, a 3430, you can use the N over D button and you type it in exactly how I have it written on my paper. So and then we press the N over D button again to get this fraction. Down arrow, we put the 12 in the bottom. The right arrow gets us out, and parenthesis, and then the down arrow gets us to the denominator. So then 1 minus, and I'm choosing not to put in these outer parentheses just because of my calculator. The way that I can type this in, I don't need them. You can certainly put them there, but you don't have to put them there. And 0.056, go down to the bottom, 12. Make sure you come out of the fraction and then put a parenthesis and then the exponent key. And then negative 12, make sure you use the negative sign and not the subtraction sign because they're different, times 30. And that gives us a monthly payment of $1,262.51. Okay. And so this you could also accomplish by doing it just step by step and doing the numerator and denominator separately. I'll show you how to do that real quick in case you're interested. So if you have a scientific calculator, you could just do 219, 920 times 0.056 divided by 12. Notice I'm not putting parentheses. You don't have to. The calculator does the order of operations for you. That's not to say you don't always need parentheses, because in some instances you do, but in this case you can get away with without using them. And so I'm going to write down the entire number that I get in the calculator, and now I'm going to do the denominator. So 1 minus 1 plus 0.056 divided by 12, and parenthesis. And in this case, I definitely want to use those parentheses because I only want this part of the parentheses raised to the exponent, negative 12 times 30. Enter. And then 0.812896278 in the bottom. And so now you can divide those two numbers, 26.293333. And you can divide, you could type in the denominator, or you can hit second answer, which is what I like to do, and it just takes that previous answer and plugs it in for you, and then you don't have to plug it all in. So you get the same exact answer as we did before, per month. Okay, so let's jump in and do example 2. So this is my favorite type of example when it comes to mortgages, because we're going to look at the total cost of the home, and to me, that's one of the most important things to look at, because it's so easy to look at a monthly payment and think, you know, okay, can I afford this per month? And that's important to think about. But it's also important to think about really how much is this costing altogether. So we're going to find the total cost of the home in the previous example. So you can recall in the previous example, we found that the down payment that was made was $54,980, and then the monthly payment was $1,262.51 per month. So if we want to know the total cost of the home, we have to factor in the down payment because that was paid. So total cost, we're going to take that down payment, $54,980, and then we're going to add that monthly payment. We're going to figure out how many times we make that person or the family makes that monthly payment. So they're going to make that monthly payment 12 months a year for 30 years. So it's always going to be the payment times 12 times number of years. Okay, and so we're going to factor that on. So 54,980 plus 1262.51 times 12 times 30. And I could have used multiplication there or the parentheses. Either way, it means multiplication. And so I get a grand total of 50,900, or I'm sorry, not 50,000, 509. Let me write down all the digits and then I'll figure out those commas. So I was going to say 50,000, that'd be a good deal. So $509,483.60 paid for this home. And then keep in mind, I'll just write this down so we can remember that the home cost was $274,900. And the nice thing about figuring this out, it's not, you don't want to just figure this out so that you can, be sad, looking at the amount of interest that, somebody pays, but it's good to do this and look at a couple different types of loans. So maybe this family tries to do a loan where maybe they pay it off in 27 years or 25 years. And yes, the monthly payment's going to be higher, but you could go through this process and find the total amount and see that, oh, wow, we save money and interest that way. So it's helpful to to go through this and find the total cost with many different types of loans to figure out which one is the best fit.